Hi guys, I'm Jessica and welcome back to my channel. So happy you can be here. And if you haven't checked out my last video where I give you 5 book recommendations to read before the end of the year, make sure you go ahead and check that out. So today I'm going to be doing a mini book review on this lovely book called Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is a book that I have been really wanting to read for a while, so when I finally got to it, I was pretty excited because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews with this one. Some people really love it, some people don't. I also know that it is a TV show. I think it's on Hulu, I believe. So a lot of people have been kind of buzzing about this book. Again, a lot of mixed reviews, so I really wanted to read it for myself because when I first read the premise, I was pretty interested. It's a very unconventional love story, but yet still very familiar. So I wanted to give it a go for myself. So without further ado, let's get into my book review. So the plot. Pretty much this story is about 2 characters, Connell and Marianne. They grow up in this very small town in Ireland called Carrickley. I think I'm saying that right. But they start off going to high school together and they have this really interesting friendship outside of school. But in school, they sort of ignore each other and pretend this friendship doesn't exist. So Connell is this very well-liked, popular, kind of charismatic guy. And Marianne is described as independent, a little bit lonely. Actually, she's very lonely. She's oftentimes made fun of, and just an overall loner. How these 2 are friends, it's really interesting, but this friendship that they have in high school develops into something more, where it then becomes more of like a friends with benefits situation. This friends with benefits situation carries on as they then go to the same college in Dublin. And even though they date other people and they fall like out of love with each other, then back in love with each other, they always have this situationship going on. Marianne is really one that is a little bit self-destructive when it comes to finding love. She really can't place her finger on exactly what she wants, and the same goes with Connell. I feel like he struggles with love and identifying himself in this world. They also struggle with just life in general and really finding their footing in the world. And this story essentially is very psychological with these 2 characters. So throughout time, this book really goes through like periods of time where their friendship is, strong, and then it's dissolved, and then it becomes strong again, but they still have this very platonic yet sexual relationship that goes on. Even though they date other people, they have their own thing going on, but they always find this very mutual place back together. I would say the story feels very familiar, and it is very, not a lot of action happens in this book. It really focuses on the psychological aspect of this weird situationship that they have going on and how they end up dealing with it. I don't know if that was a very good explanation, but that is essentially what the book is about. It's pretty much about this friends with benefits situationship that they have going on, and it develops over a period of time from when they're in high school to pretty much after they graduate college. It's a very confusing relationship that they have. It's very emotional. It's very psychological. There's just a lot going on with these 2 people. All right, so let's just get into the characters of the book. So I really liked Connell and Marianne overall. I thought that, they had a lot going on mentally with their friendship, and it was just really, I don't know, it was just something about it that felt very like familiar with them and something that you can really identify with each of those characters. Connell, even though he was very charismatic and like well-liked and the popular guy and kind of like a jock, I will say he had a lot of layers going on, and clearly, he really cared for Marianne, even though it really annoyed me how he would not stand up for her oftentimes and would let a lot of like people making fun of her and teasing her. He would just let that go and like really wouldn't own up to his actions. And with Marianne, even though she is described as very independent, I would not say that she's a strong person. I would say that she's very emotionally unstable and really tries to find her footing in the world, you know, through relationships. And oftentimes these relationships ended up being very abusive, whether it's emotionally, physically, mentally. So she really relied a lot of times on other people to tell her what to do and tell her who she was. I did not like the surrounding characters in the book. I did not, upside down. Again, I did not like the surrounding characters in the book. I thought their friends were just really dramatic, really petty. They talked about each other. They were just not good people, in my opinion. They teased Marianne and they would like try to be friends with one another. I just didn't get it. I thought they were really awful people, to be honest. So I did not like their friend group at all. I really was only invested in Connell and Marianne. And even though this relationship that they have is so all over the place and so confusing, and you just want the two people to be together, it was something that, again, very familiar, and it's something that you can identify in probably every relationship. It was one of those things that even though they are so emotionally invested in each other, it just did not work out, and you wanted it to work out, but at the same time, you have these two people that have a lot emotionally and mentally going on that it just, I don't know. I just felt like, how could they be together if they have all of these things going on? So overall, the characters were decent. I liked Connell and Marianne together, but everyone else in the book, I really just did not care for. And if it isn't confusing enough, let's get into the romance of this book. So I wouldn't really say that this book is a romance book at all. It's more so about a friendship that turns into something, but yet never really gets there, if that makes any sense at all. So there isn't a big, like, you know, the stereotypical, they meet, they fall in love, they break up, they end up back together. It's not like that at all. It's more so really just about two people trying to find themselves in this friendship. And even though they have this mutual love for each other and they're invested in each other and they want to be together, it just does not work for some reason. And I really wish that it would, but again, they're not emotionally stable as two individual people. So I would say the romance aspect of it is, it reads so familiar. I'm sure that each and every one of us can probably identify something when it comes to relationships between these two people. So yeah, I would say that it's not super romancy, but yet it is. I thought it was interesting because even when they decided to date other people, you could definitely tell that they were on each of each other's mind. Like when Marianne would date that one guy in Sweden, and I think the guy, his name was James. I'm probably getting his name wrong. I forgot. But anyway, when she would date these other men, it was clear that she really wasn't emotionally connected as she was with Connell. And then when Connell would date, you know, the other girls, it was clear that he liked them and he may have even loved them, but he did not feel that way as he would when he was with Marianne. Relationship wise and sexual wise. All right, so let's get into the overview of this book. So this book, I would say, was very emotionally draining for the characters and for me too, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like, make up your mind. That's really how I felt about these two people and all of the characters in the book. Overall, I enjoyed the book, but I will say that it was very emotionally draining to experience these two people that really couldn't figure it out and couldn't, you know, come to terms that they just either need to completely dissolve their friendship, you know, and have nothing to do with each other so they can focus on themselves, or commit to one another and figure it out from there. Yeah, so I will say it was like one or the other with these characters, and I just feel like they could not find a happy medium. I really did like the pace of this book. I mean, it wasn't very long. It's like 200, almost 300 pages, and it reads fairly fast. So I would say that the pacing was perfectly fine for me. It is something that there's not a lot of things going on. It really just focuses on the psychological aspect of these two characters and their situation, friendship. So I don't know what to say about this book, you guys, because it's just one of those things. It's like you have to read it to experience it. But again, the pace was fine for me. Overall, it was okay. Definitely was not a favorite of mine. I heard that Sally Rooney's Conversation with Friends is also really good, so I'm curious to read that one as well. But yeah, wasn't a favorite of mine, but I'm actually glad that I read it. All right, so my rating of this book is, I gave this one a solid 3.5, and I will say I gave it a 3.5 pretty much, again, based on the characters being so emotionally draining with each other and a little bit frustrating. I thought that it was well written. I thought that emotionally I definitely felt connected in some sort of way, but it just didn't strike me as like the best book that I've ever read. It was just a decent, solid book. I certainly am happy that I read it, and I would recommend this book for sure, even though I only gave it a 3.5, but I think that you can probably find something to connect with just once you get past the frustration of these two characters, and pretty much all the characters were frustrating to me in some aspect. I will say that this book is very simple. So if you like a very simple story, even though I've said that it's confusing, I would say you'd probably like this because it is a very simple story, and I think that it is very appropriately titled Normal People, because this is a book that really is about two normal people and just things that happen in relationships. And again, something that can feel very familiar, whether you've gone through it yourself or you know people that have gone through having a situationship or a friends with benefits or just a friendship that goes through and evolves through time. It is something that you can probably pinpoint, at one point in your life. All right, so I know that was probably all over the place for this book, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I feel all over the place with this book because it's just, it goes up and down. But hopefully you enjoyed this review, and let me know if there are any other books that you want me to review that you have enjoyed. Also, let me know if you have read this book or you have watched the series on Hulu. And yeah, just your general thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with all of the videos that I post, and follow me on Instagram so you can see all of my bookish posts that I make. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.